When I was a kid, I loved to play in the backyard brush and compost pile. It was tucked behind the shed, shaded by an enormous weeping willow tree. I was kind of like the children in Emi Mahmoud's poem, Die Baladna, not hesitating to sink my fingers into the pile, digging and creating a little nest for myself and anyone else who wanted to join me back there. I didn't appreciate it at the time, of course, but reflecting back on this, I know that a compost pile is a site of transformation, because out of death and decay comes the nutrients that nourish life. What a wonderful place to feel at home. My own children, now 5 years old, already know what it is to take care of the earth. They see trash along the side of the road and say, "That's bad. It's going to make the animals sick. We need to clean it up." The poet says, "You nurtured me before you knew what it was to nurture, tended me before you knew what it was to tend." I learned these instincts from my parents, who, for as long as I know, have incorporated sustainability into their daily lives in quiet but important ways. It seemed normal to me growing up because that's just the way it was. But when I think back on the amount of time they spent carting recyclables around, I'm amazed. For years, before my mother's workplace started recycling, she brought paper grocery sacks full of paper, cans, and bottles home to put out on the curb for city recycling. My dad saved little containers to store nails and screws in the basement workshop and spices and other dry goods in the kitchen. They've always composted before it was cool. And they took me a couple times a year to a lasagna dinner at a Presbyterian church that raised money to care for the nearby Pine Bush Preserve and Carner blue butterfly habitat. As a 15-year-old, I spent a couple weeks of my summer volunteering at the youth office of our Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston. One of my tasks was to go through piles and piles of outdated training binders, tossing those that they didn't need anymore. And I was horrified to learn that they did not recycle at the time. So every day I carted tote bags of paper home on the commuter rail back to my cousin's house where I was staying. It certainly wasn't the easy way, but again, it felt normal. I am my mother's daughter. Aside from family influence, why do we do these things? Because it's the right thing to do? There are many voices around us and within some of us questioning the effectiveness of recycling and other relatively small actions. What difference do these things make, they ask, given the enormity of the climate crisis? What about all of the recyclable and compostable items that end up in landfills, an issue that Dallas has made little progress on in the last 10 years despite making commitments to do so? Doubt abounds, and yet we still put our paper and bottles and cans in the blue recycling bins because the alternatives are careless trash tossing or hopeless resignation. On a deeper level, though, below the statistics about percentage of waste recycled and measures of climate change worldwide, there is an important spiritual practice in taking daily actions for the good of the earth. Spiritual practices are intentional disciplines that connect us with ourselves and others and the holy, with something larger than ourselves. These spiritual practices call us to examine our relationship with non-human life, with the earth. Aldo Leopold, one of the earliest American conservationists, called this practice thinking like a mountain. Leopold was born in Iowa in 1887. He loved the outdoors and ended up getting a degree in forestry. One of his first assignments working for the U.S. Forest Service was in Arizona and New Mexico, and it was here that he learned a hard lesson about the balance of nature and our ethical relationship with the land, which inspired the rest of his career as an environmentalist and a writer. He wrote about this lesson in the Sand County Almanac, a collection of essays that he finished just prior to his death in 1948. The Sand County Almanac is a book that has sold more than 2 million copies and been translated into 15 languages. It is still taught as a foundational text for environmental ethics. In New Mexico, Leopold was assigned to hunt and kill bears, wolves, and mountain lions who were preying on local ranchers' livestock. One day, while eating lunch with his partner on a high rock overlooking a turbulent river, they saw what they thought was a doe wading through the white water. But as the creature climbed the bank toward them, they realized it was a wolf. In those days, we had never heard of passing up a chance to kill a wolf, he wrote. And in a second, they shot it down. We reached the old wolf in time to watch the fierce green fire dying in her eyes, he wrote. I realized then, and have known ever since, that there was something new to me in those eyes, something known only to her and to the mountain. I was young then and full of trigger itch. I thought that because fewer wolves meant more deer, that no wolves would mean hunter's paradise. But after seeing the green fire die, I sensed that neither the wolf nor the mountain agreed with such a view. He goes on to describe what he witnessed in states that have sought to eradicate the wolf population. The deer takes over and wreaks havoc. Such a mountain looks as if someone had given God new pruning shears and forbidden him all other exercise, says Leopold. I now suspect, he says, that just as the deer herd lives in mortal fear of its wolves, so does a mountain live in mortal fear of its deer. And perhaps with better cause, for while a buck pulled down by wolves can be replaced in 2 or 3 years, a range pulled down by too many deer may fail of replacement in as many decades. So also with cows. The cowman who cleans his range of wolves does not realize that he is taking over the wolf's job of trimming the herd to fit the range. He has not learned to think like a mountain. Hence, we have dust bowls and rivers washing the future into the sea. Let me say it again. We have not learned to think like a mountain. Looking into the fierce green fire dying in the wolf's eyes, Leopold came to understand the delicate balance that exists in nature. When you remove one layer of it, the balance is thrown off and it crumbles. This experience led him to adopt an ethic of humility and respect and stewardship, in which humans went in his mind from conqueror of the land community to plain member and citizen of it. His ethic enlarged the boundaries of the community to include soil, water, plants, and animals, or collectively, the land. He challenged us to deeply consider just what and whom do we love? This is a religious question. Just what and whom do we love? Do compassion and love of self, neighbor, and God extend to non-human life on earth? Have you ever wondered why we refer to the environment as if it is something outside of ourselves? As if there's people, and then everything else is the environment. When we think and speak in this way, we remove ourselves from it. But in truth, we know that we are part of the environment. Being humans means we are of this earth. In this way, you could see being an environmentalist not as a selfless act, but as serving self and serving a greater good. What we do for the earth, we do for ourselves, and vice versa. Our salvation, our health and well-being and wholeness is part and parcel of the salvation of the environment. I've come to believe that the way to remain hopeful about all of this, about the future of the earth and all of life on it, is to understand ourselves as entangled with it and to act in solidarity. Now, the word solidarity is usually used in the context of accompanying and advocating for marginalized human individuals and communities, but it has just as powerful of a meaning in the non-human context. James Bridle, a British artist and writer who has studied and written about the relationship between technology, including artificial intelligence, and the physical natural world, says, "The truth is always stranger, more lively, and more expansive than anything we can compute." The active, practical care of solidarity, he says, resists certitude and conclusions. It is the result of encounters, not assumptions. Encounters like that of Aldo Leopold with the wolf. Encounters like that of my kids with litter and with cute and fascinating animals impacted by that litter. Encounters like that of Ned Fritz with the natural beauty of the Trinity River and the Great Trinity Forest here in Dallas. The late Ned Fritz and his wife, Jeannie, who is alive and well among us, have been longtime members of our congregation and pioneering environmental advocates in our midst. They knew what it meant to be of the earth, to be in solidarity with the earth. It's what motivated their activism, which saved the Trinity River from development and preserved huge swaths of forest. It also motivated Ned to write poetry. And I want to share with you one of his poems entitled Earth Psalm. He wrote, "The earth is my origin and my temple. I shall guard its purity. My body is a chapel, and I shall keep it clean. I am one with the earth and all its land forms, sky forms, sea forms, life forms, and ecosystems. I am one with my fellow human beings. We are all a great part of the unity of earth. I sing to the earth, her mountains and valleys, plains and wetlands. I sing to the earth, her air and clouds, winds and rains, great beds of rock and minerals, the molten magma beneath. I sing to the earth, to her great diversity of life that she nurtures. I humbly admit that humans have the power to disrupt delicate balances in life systems and to extinguish entire species. I resolve to restrain myself and other humans from harming any fellow species or life systems, except as may be necessary for the health and life of the human species. I pledge to participate in forming the environmental policies of government. I will resist violations of environmental laws even when the government agencies are the violators. I welcome my responsibility to preserve the earth for future generations of human and other life forms. I acknowledge that most animal species eat other species. I recognize that all species seek to increase their numbers, even if this preempts the habitat and resources of others. But I exalt in the capacity of humans to sublimate aggressive tendencies, and I will refrain from consuming or displacing more plants and animals than may be necessary for my survival. I celebrate the glory of the human psyche. I have faith in the capacity of individuals in a climate of freedom to understand and to solve environmental problems. Together with my fellow humans, I dedicate myself to save our environment. I am one with the earth and all that lives here with me. I am one with the universe. I am one with the great spirit of earth and sky." This is Ned's Earth Psalm. And it's a psalm of praise, but also a pledge of solidarity. If you wrote an Earth Psalm, I wonder what yours would say. What encounters have you had that shed light on the truth that you are of this earth? Many religious traditions, including Unitarian Universalism, have addressed this truth. As Unitarian Universalists, one of our sources of wisdom is spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. As people of faith, we are committed to respecting the interdependent web of all life of which we are a part. Indigenous religions say that the earth is the dwelling place of the ancestors. We belong to it, depend on it, come from it, and return to it. Hinduism says that the pollution of the earth is nothing but a reflection of our own consciousness. So it is a religious practice and responsibility to purify one's consciousness. Judaism has the concept of tikkun olam, or actions taken to repair the world. Some Jewish scholars have interpreted tikkun not as repair, but as fixing up, refining, or perfecting, insisting that our world is not fundamentally broken. Rather, it is unfinished. Our role and responsibility are to uncover the divine sparks that exist in this messy world, revealing their beauty and bringing them together in harmony with the divine. The future of the world is unwritten, and we are a part of its unfolding. And this is a source of hope. The poet reminds us to build and build again, to make new, to bring forth life from relentless earth, making an oasis from charred terrain, creating refuge from only scar tissue and lightning strikes. Let me be more to you than just a final resting place. Let me do more for you than call you home. Child of mine, if you are reading this, I need you, your mother. So when you make a choice to recycle something, when you see something beautiful in nature that stops you in your tracks, when you encounter life that shifts your perspective and grabs your heart, when you consider what your responsibility is in relation to the earth, I encourage you to think like a mountain. Just as the eradication of wolves from an ecosystem has devastating consequences, humanity's failure to take responsibility or our commitment to act in solidarity with life and land are critical. Just what and whom do we love? For the love of all that is good and holy, let us take this seriously. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because we are of this earth. May it ever be so. Amen.